Hey everybody, it's XS Master X. Welcome to episode 2 of Pokemon LeafGreen. Now, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this in this last video, but I actually did try to record this episode like a few weeks ago. I ran into, in fact I tried to record it several times over the course of the last few weeks, but I ran into several technical difficulties, and as a result, Leaf is now infinitely walking forward and I have to restart the emulator. Alright, that's been my main technical difficulty. I tried to incorporate game audio by having Visual Boy Advance record the audio. However, that caused the emulator to crash way too much and the audio ended up just screwing up a lot. So, I decided not to do that and just continue putting music over the video. Real quick, this guy, once you talk to him after getting the Pokedex, he says that he had his coffee, and he gives you a Teacher TV and shows you how to catch Pokemon. And by this tree was a was it a Pokeball or a potion? There's another one by that tree, go get it. I'm sorry I couldn't show it, but the alternative was restarting the entire ROM because I saved in a stupid place. But there is one thing I don't have to just talk about and not show, and that is the rival fight that is in Route 22. Also in Route 22 are a couple new Pokemon, Mankey and Spearow. Mankey is a fighting type, and Spearow is a normal flying type. Now here they are now. Spearow I think is a better flying type for the early game over Pidgey, because Pidgey has like all around decent stats. Spearow has stats based in attack and speed, which makes it more useful. And Mankey actually has the same kind of stats, as you can see. Hey, I got an adamant one. That's neat. Alright. I also grinded these three up because Mankey and Spearow will be temporary team members of mine to level 9. So hopefully I won't lose spectacularly to this rival fight like I did in the failed recording. But yeah, I've been continuously having problems with the emulator crashing. And I just closed Skype, so hopefully that'll fix that part of that problem. Yes, they did get stronger. Alright, let's see how this goes. Now, to my knowledge, even though his Pidgey and his Charmander are high level enough to have learned Gust and Ember, which both would have been super effective against my Bulbasaur, I don't think they ever actually use it, which is interesting. So, yeah. And as you see, we're pretty well matched here, but Spearow won, probably because of its high speed. And Charmander comes out, and I'm gonna send out Mankey to do the dirty work here. Which I forgot to give a nickname. I don't know what I would have nicknamed it. Dixie Kong, I guess. If I still have it when I get to the name raider, I'll do that. But yeah, still a pretty straightforward battle. Now I tried grinding just Mankey and Spearow up to level 7 and Bulbasaur up to level 9, but that didn't really work out. So level 9's the way to go. Aw, you just lucked out. And you get $144, which is an interesting number. I hear the Pokemon League is crawling with tough trainers. I have to figure out how to get past them. You should quit stalling and get a move on. Alright, I might as well go ahead and show the Pokemon League. This place you'll be coming back to much later, like the very end of the game. But right now there's not really much for us to do here. Because as you see when we walk inside, oddly, the Viridian Forest music plays here, although you can't hear it. And only truly skilled trainers are allowed through. You don't have the Boulder badge yet. Rules are rules, I can't let you pass. Each time you get a badge, one more guard will let you pass them. And I usually just wait, and I'm going to be doing this in the Let's Play too. I just wait until the very end of the game and then show them all my badges, and then just head straight to the end. Now, a fun fact about the Pokemon catching tutorial that the old man gives that I didn't show is that in Pokemon Yellow, he has to catch a Weedle, and the Weedle actually runs away and he fails to catch it, which is a big slap to the face of the player because Weedle cannot be found in that game. So that was the only Weedle in the entire game and he let it run away. Anyways, in this patch of grass, speaking of Weedle, you can find it and Caterpie shown here. I encountered them off screen but did not catch them. I'll be catching them off screen, I guess. If you walk past it, yeah, that's not walking past it. But if you do somehow manage to walk past it, despite the treacherous ledges, you will enter a building with a couple of ladies in it. And if you get past them, you will enter Viridian Forest. Something new, in fact, I believe exclusive to this game, was the little pictures that introduce each. Oh hey, I got an antidote that's on the tree. Every time I watch a stream of first gen Pokemon, I keep on spamming the comments to pick up the antidote on the tree. Because no one else knows about this except for me, apparently. But yeah, up here, you will find a Pokeball, which will be useful because there are new Pokemon, the evolved forms of Caterpie and Weedle, Metapod and Kakuna, and Pikachu, who I'll also be using as a temporary team member, but I probably won't catch it in this video unless I luckily run into it, because I don't really want to be. Oh, I forgot to heal. Dang it. You think I'll be okay? I don't know why I'm asking you. I guess I'll go heal real quick. I'll credit out. Alright. I managed to get that done in about 15 seconds, because Leaf is an excellent marathon runner when she tries to be. I was throwing Pokeballs to catch Pokemon and I ran out. That's why you can never have too many Pokeballs. I have one because I spent all of them catching the Pokemon in a failed recording. And yeah, you just saw there was a potion. Now this forest is inhabited by many trainers called bug catchers. There's actually only one of these trainers in the whole forest. The last one is actually required to fight. And all of them have nothing but Weedle and Caterpie, so it's not very interesting. But nevertheless, I'll go ahead and show it. If you have a Charmander or a Spearow like I do, this forest is a great way to raise your Pokemon. And if you start out with Charmander, you're going to need it, because you need Metal Claw to defeat the first gym if you didn't pick up Mankey. And in the original first gen, there's no way at all to defeat the first gym if you chose Charmander. Because I don't even believe actually, I believe you would, in the same Route 22, you'd catch a Nidoran, one of either male or female, because they were found there in the original game. And some people raise Caterpie into its final form, Butterfree, and use Confusion to take down Brock. However, I personally don't like to do this because it's a bit risky. Maybe not in the original game, but in this game, the gym's signature move, Rock Tomb, is 4 times super effective against Butterfree, and will likely result in a one-hit KO. In the original game, the gym's signature move was Bind, which isn't a very... Well, I mean, back then it was kind of overpowered, because when your Pokemon was affected by Bind or any of its similar counterparts, it could not move at all. In this game, it just does a little bit of damage each turn. You can't switch. It also has nothing to do with rock types, so I don't really know why they chose to give the gym that. Also, in Pokemon Yellow, you could find Pidgeotto here, which I was very confused about when I was playing through that game. You have no idea. Huh? I ran out of Pokemon. Now, most Pokemon games seem to have the tradition, started from the Caterpie and Weedle, of having a low-level bug type that can be evolved at an early level. Caterpie and Weedle evolve at level 7 and then evolve into their final forms at level 10, so you get pretty decent Pokemon for earlier in the game. In Gold and Silver, you had Caterpie and Weedle again, as well as Ladybug and Spinarak, which are very useless but pretty cool Pokemon. In Gen 3, Caterpie and Weedle are gone, but you have Wurmple, who can actually evolve into either Silcoon or Cascoon, depending on a completely arbitrary and random value that it has. That serves no other purpose. I'm gonna switch out Spearow here because I need to get my other Pokemon leveled up too. Bulbasaur will probably solo the first gym very easily. This could take a while. In 4th Gen, Wurmple reappeared. There's a kind of a pattern here. And I also brought in Combee, who's a very annoying Pokemon because if you catch a male Combee, you can't evolve it. It has to be a female. And also, in Pokemon X and Y's Wonder Trade feature, the first Pokemon I ever received over the Wonder Trade was a male Combee. So that was a great sign of things to come. Since most of the time, whenever you trade on there, you'll find stuff like Eevees, Charmanders, and Froakies, which are leftovers of people's Ivy breeding. And this annoys a lot of people greatly, but I don't use the Wonder Trade that much, so whatever. Also, when the game first came out, Japanese players spammed Bunnelbees on the Wonder Trade. So for a while they were rather disliked. I actually have a funny story about the Pokemon Diggersby. At the beginning of X and Y, a lot of the new Pokemon were overused, not because they're good, but because people were trying them out, seeing if they're any good. I saw that Diggersby wasn't overused, and I had looked at its stats earlier, and I didn't think it was a very good Pokemon. So I questioned to my friend, why is this thing an overused? It's not very useful. First of all, I didn't really notice that it had huge power. Even then, I still wasn't sure. Oh yeah, this guy. Did you know that Pokemon evolve? It's a great CPU. Anyways, onwards with my story. So, after a while, I complained about how Diggersby and Smeargle, I think it was, were overused. Smeargle ended up having a good reason to be, but that's not the point. And right after I did that, I got on Pokemon Showdown and engaged in a battle. Oops, hold on a second. Engaged in a battle where the last blow was done by a Diggersby. And one of my friends, who, little to my knowledge, was spectating the battle, said, "What are you saying about Diggersby?" So, that spawned off a long hatred of that Pokemon from me. Especially since Diggersby is actually in my friend Safari in that game. So yeah, imagine that. I don't know, I don't really hate it anymore. It was just kind of a grudge type thing I had. Speaking of Diggersby, each Pokemon game also has like an early normal type and an early normal and flying type, which reside in like the first few routes of the game. This game, as you see, has Rattata and Pidgey. Second gen also has Rattata and Pidgey, along with like Sentret and Hoot Hoot. In the third game, they brought in Tailo and Zigzagoon. Zigzagoon is very useful as an HM slave, especially since this thing's gonna harden, so I don't really want to deal with that. Especially since it can have the ability Pick Up, and for some odd reason, it can learn Surf, which is nice. In the fourth game, they mixed it up a little bit by giving Starly, who's a normal flying type that was actually good in viable and competitive play. Even if it wasn't great, it did manage to get banned to borderline 3 generations in a row. And Bidoof, who evolved into a water normal type, rather than just a pure normal type. Bidoof is also an excellent HM slave. And once you got to Pastoria City, you could pick up Tropius in the marsh, and pretty much cover every HM in the game. But in the original Red, Blue, and Yellow, the best HM slave of all was Mew, because you could literally cover every HM in the game except for the relatively worthless Flash, just with that one Pokemon. However, Mew is a pretty good Pokemon. In fact, was banned to Ubers back in those days. It was only unbanned come Gen 5, so you could probably find much better uses for it than as an HM slave. There's a complicated little glitch you could use to get Mew, even though it was only intended as an event Pokemon, which I might be explaining later, but I don't really want to right now. And learn Vine Whip, which will be very useful for taking on the first gym. In fact, it's probably the only thing I'll ever use. Ever. And we're almost there. We just have one more trainer to acquire one. Now, Pikachu, which I still need to catch, is not very useful against the first gym, because most of the gym leaf Pokemon are ground types, and Pikachu's an electric type. Electric does not affect ground whatsoever. Despite this, in the anime, apparently Ash's Pikachu still managed to take down Brock's Onix. The anime often takes liberties with the game's established physics. There's the infamous Aim for the Horn incidentally. Then there's Swallow's Thunder Armor. There's a lot of things I could say. And naturally, to people who just play the games like I do, that can be strange. Although, I guess I can't say just read the games, because I've also read like the first 6 issues of the manga. And I've been meaning to get back to that sometime. I don't really read manga that much, but just because it's Pokemon, I decided to read that one. It's pretty interesting. And that gives me a chance to talk about this character who's walking around on screen right now named Leaf. Now, in the manga, there's a character, there's red and there's blue. Blue is called green in Japan though. And then there's another character who in Japan is named Blue and in America is named Green. Very confusing. It's easy to get them mixed up. Who is not found in the games at all, but was a girl character who kind of was like a thief and a, what's the word, con artist? She still like worked with the heroes eventually. But the games had no such person because you could not play as a female character in the original Red, Blue, and Yellow. It wasn't until Pokemon Crystal that you could. And it's been in every game since for obvious reasons. But when the remakes, Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green came out, they made Leaf, well, at least that's what we call her, because she doesn't really have an official name, but the fandom has agreed on Leaf. Also, I believe Green was, once they got to that arc, given a remodel to look more like Leaf from the games. Although I haven't actually gotten to that point, so don't quote me on that. I seem to remember that being the case in a picture I saw. And Bulbasaur is about to faint, so hopefully, okay, yeah, the Weedle's done. I guess that's about it for Viridian Forest, unless I run into Pikachu on the way out, which is very improbable, and I'd be very lucky if that happened. And one thing infuriating about this forest, well, this early Earth game, is that there's not really a good place to grind, because in Viridian Forest you're at frequent risk of being poisoned, and out here, right next to the city, the Pokemon aren't very high leveled. But nevertheless, since I only really need Bulbasaur, I should be okay. And here we are in Pewter City. There's not a whole lot to say about here. I could go visit the museum, but I'll be saving that and the Pokemon Gym for the next episode. So next time on Pokemon Leaf Green, we'll be taking on the gym and moving on, going east, I think it is. My directions aren't perfect. See you guys then.